Hey, this is Jeremy Wagner from Broken Hope and also known as Mr. Horror Author, and you're listening to the Metal Teddy Bear Experience with Chris.
Welcome back to the Metal Teddy Bear Experience here in 90.3 WMSC Upper Montclair. This is your host, Chris. I'm on the line right now with an awesome person, author, a guitarist, Jeremy Wagner, Broken Hope. What's up, man? How you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good, Chris. Right before you called, I was killing a bunch of Nazis in a sniper video game and getting my anger and my aggression out. It's a pretty sick game too, because it's like when you shoot a sniper bullet, it goes in slow motion and you see like inside the Nazi's body as they're blowing apart. So kind of fits into my gory lyrics and horror writing and all that good stuff. So it caught me at a great time, man. I'm really in the horror mood.
I gotta say, that is probably the most metal way someone's opened up an interview with me.
Oh, thank you.
Killing Nazi zombies and all that. That's pretty awesome right there. Yeah, that actually kind of reminded me of Call of Duty. You know, you ever play that with the zombie mode?
Yeah, I really love Call of Duty. I love the fighting the other games too, like the Nazi zombie games and all that good stuff. I'm a real World War II like fanatic too, and I actually own Jeff Hanneman's World War II library, which is full of World War II history, a lot of Third Reich history books and that type of thing. So games like Call of Duty and whatnot are cool because you kind of get thrown into that point of view of what it was like to be a U.S. soldier back then too. I mean, video games in life, that's not realistic, but I still think it's cool if someone made that, to give you that experience. And of course, killing zombies is not real life either. That's total fantasy, but it's still fun, man.
Oh, no, I definitely agree with you. I mean, there's so many countless weekends where me and my friends just hung out and killed zombies and Nazis and Call of Duty and games like that, you know what I mean? And it's fun. And
Yeah, I love it.
I mean, it did actually make me more interested in history class. In World War II
Yeah.
in history. It grabbed my attention more. It definitely did. Because
Oh,
then
that's
wanted me
cool.
to go home. Because I was like, when they were talking about Normandy and certain maps, I was like, I played that map in Call of Duty, and then I got interested in the subject. So it really does correlate.
Right.
It really
Oh,
does.
dude, that's awesome. Yeah.
Actually, last time we talked, we got to talk Monday, and you talked about how you were going to meet up with Kirk from Metallica, because you guys are two huge horror fans. How did that go?
Went really well. So Metallica played Milwaukee, which is only about an hour north of my house. So to give you an idea where I live in Illinois and in the Chicago area, up in the northern burbs of Chicago. So I'm like right between Milwaukee and Chicago. So depending on who's playing, I'll go to shows in both cities. So Tuesday night was the night Metallica played this past week. And I hooked up with Kirk. And as usual, we're talking about horror. He's warming up while talking to me on his this Bela Lugosi or White Zombie guitar. I can't remember which movie it was now. He's got so many horror guitars. I think I'm pretty sure it was some White Zombie, like the old movie White Zombie. That was the guitar he had. Anyway, so I was like, killer guitar as always and horror stuff. And then, we just chatted a little bit about horror, and he has this gosh damn statue. Pardon my language. I hope that's okay for the FCC, the D word.
Yeah, you're good.
Kirk has this statue I've wanted. It's a bronze statue. It's of a dinosaur, like a Tyrannosaurus Rex, attacking this caveman and cave woman, and it's called Prehistoric Challenge, and it was made by the legendary stop motion effects god Ray Harryhausen. And for those of you listening, if you don't know who Ray Harryhausen is, he was like the godfather of special effects, like stop motion effects specifically, with him and another guy, Willis O'Brien. And they did, like, Willis O'Brien did King Kong, the original King Kong movie. And Ray Harryhausen went on after Willis O'Brien's legacy and did like all the Sinbad movies, Earth versus the Flying Saucer, Clash of the Titans, Valley of Gwangi, on and on. And that guy's a hero to me as a kid growing up. I loved all those movies with stop motion monsters and everything. So suffice it to say, Ray Harryhausen getting an original Harryhausen like piece screen used from a movie is very rare and extremely hard to get. But some of these bronzes that Harryhausen made were done in a limited edition series, so he made more than one. But those aren't always easy to get either. And there's like several different ones. There's like a King Kong Tyrannosaurus one, a bunch of those skeletons from like, can't remember what movie, but it was one of the Sinbads, that type of stuff. So anyway, Kirk had one, and he said sell it to me, and guess what? He forgot to bring it to Milwaukee, so I guess I'll have to wait to get that again. I was ready to buy it and take it home and, put it on my mantle and stuff. So, but anyway, that went down, and it's always good to see him, man. We always have a great talk about, monster movies and whatnot. He's got my new book, Rabid Heart. And he reads a lot, and of course he's into the undead and zombies and all that stuff. So, and above and beyond that, a great Metallica show. They had Jim Brewer actually open up the show, the comedian, and that was a little bit different, but he went over really well, and he was super hilarious. And again, it was, you know what, man? It was a great Tuesday night. I've had worse,
Yeah, no, seeing Metallica, talking to Kirk about horror, and seeing Jim Burr, I mean, that sounds like a killer night, especially on the weekday,
yeah, big time. Yeah, absolutely.
Did Jim Brewer do stand-up, or did he play his band, with his band, like, songs?
No, he was doing stand-up at this one.
Ah, because I know...
You know how Metallica play in the round?
Yeah.
In the middle of the venue? So Jim Brewer just performed in the round, had a microphone. He's just going around, walking the stage and doing his stand-up, and just really hilarious, man. It's good, But yeah, Brewer's got that band, and I like his metal comedy. Like when he I don't know if you ever see him do nursery rhymes, but he does them like with AC/DC type vocals and stuff like that. It's hilarious, man. He's really funny. Him and Hetfield are like really good buddies, so I think that's kind of how he got that gig. So, and again, it was cool to see something different,
Yeah, no, definitely, because at first when I heard he was opening, I thought he was playing with his band, The Loud and Rowdy, or doing stand-up, but I mean, either or, that's pretty killer. And
right.
And you mentioned how you obviously you just released a brand new book, Rabid Heart. It came out October 3rd via the Afraid Horror imprint of Riverdale Avenue Books. And
Yes.
yeah, dude, that's pretty sick. Yeah, I mean, I read so many synopsis online. I checked out a little bit on my own, but I want to hear from you, from yourself. Can you give like a little summary of it, a little taste of what the book has?
Yeah. So the book centers around the main character, who's a 21-year-old young woman named Rhonda Driscoll. And the story kicks off 6 months after a global pandemic broke out that's called the necro-rabies virus. And this was a virus that broke loose as the military was screwing around with this rabies culture in a laboratory. They were going to try to use it to sustain troops and soldiers for longer periods of time, out in combat, that type of thing. And everything with that whole experiment went south, and pretty much any living mammal can get this virus if they're bitten or scratched or whatever. So this whole thing happens. Rhonda Driscoll is the daughter of a Marine colonel, and her hometown of Levendale was like ground zero for this outbreak to happen. Rhonda got airlifted out of her hometown, but unfortunately her mother died, her sister, and as she thought her fiance Brand also died back in her hometown. So 6 months later, the story kicks off. She's on this military base, it's a Marine base called Fort Rocky, and she's about to leave with a platoon of soldiers and some other armed civilians in a Black Hawk helicopter to find survivors and supplies in her old hometown. She gets to Levendale, she's looking around, and she discovers her fiance, who she feared was dead, is actually not dead, but he's not alive. He's one of these rabid undead, which are nicknamed Cujos. Cujo, by the way, if you don't know, is a Stephen King novel about a rabid dog that terrorizes a town, and they made a movie out of it. So the rabid undead are called Cujos. Brad, her love of her life is a Cujo. She cannot bring herself to kill him, and I liken it to someone who's in a situation where they have to put down a beloved pet. You know, that's hard enough. A lot of people don't have the heart to put down a pet. So you can imagine trying to put down someone you loved who's impaired and, you know, one of these rabid undead. So with that, she does this idea where she's gonna take Brad and take off with him to Florida to this like family condo that they have down there. She's in North Carolina. She's like, well, maybe I could run away with Brad. Maybe I'll find a cure and we can live, you know, on a beach down in Florida happily ever after. Now, this young woman's got PTSD. She's got trauma, and she makes a lot of bad decisions. Stealing a Humvee with her undead fiance and thinking that it's going to be smooth sailing getting to Florida is like one of the worst ideas she comes up with. And as you read the novel, that's where the story really starts. This road trip she takes is like a road trip through hell. The things that she goes through, sees, experiences, it's just one horrifying event after another. And you'll see how she comes out on the other end, if at all. And that's pretty much how the story plays out. I'll give you this, too, for your listeners, a real brief synopsis from the Great Publishers Weekly, who gave me an amazing book review, I'm proud to say. They summed up Rabid Heart as if you took the movie 28 Days Later and mashed it up with Cormac McCarthy's The Road, which was a novel and a book as well. So it's like 28 Days Later meets The Road, if that helps give you an idea of what's in store. And I'll give you one more tidbit. Right before the first page, there's like a little intro to the book, which are the lyrics to Typo Negative's Black Number One song, which is off Bloody Kisses, written by Peter Steele. And it's the lines, loving you was like loving the dead. When you read that little piece of, you know, typo lyrics, that simple line sets up the mood and vibe of the whole book.
I mean, I'm pretty interested right now just hearing about it. I feel like, I don't know, while you were telling me it, I was getting like a lot of visuals.
Yeah.
I was getting a lot of visuals, and it kind of reminded me of like, I don't know, like a series, like a movie kind of. I don't know, just the way it was, you know, I feel like that would be a great visual, you know, seeing someone going through all this hardship going all the way to Florida, you know?
Right.
And for the the type of zombie Brad is, or the type of zombies that the Cujos are, would it be more like, are they more like chill, like walkers and Walking Dead, or are they more like Dawn of the Dead kind of guys? Or?
That's a great question, and it's exactly the opposite. There's two things. One, they're not the Romero type of, undead rising from the grave, or even Walking Dead, comic and TV type of dead. These are more, that's, I think, why Publishers Weekly referenced 28 Days Later, because if you've ever seen that, that's more of the viral undead, and they're super aggressive, and some of them are quick on their feet, some aren't, so you get fast ones, slow ones. There's a slogan out there that's fast zombies suck. But some of these zombies are a little quicker than others. Some are not. Some are slower. And there are some that are so deteriorated after 6 months that they're still animated and Walking Dead, but they're actually decomposing and putrefied and stuff. So you have kind of a garden variety of zombies. The only thing is, again, they haven't risen from the dead. They're viral undead from the necro-rabies virus, and they're super aggressive. That is definitely one thing they have in common. So again, 28 Days Later-esque type of, zombie, that's kind of what you're dealing with Rabid Heart.
Okay, that's pretty interesting, because,
yeah,
I don't know, because I always try to, you always try to picture yourself in those type of situations, and part of me is always like, I hope to God they're like walkers, like from Walking Dead, not like, the aggressive ones are running at you, and those are much harder to fend for yourself, to actually live in the apocalypse kind of world, you know what I mean?
right.
So how is she because now I'm really interested in how she plans, because you said they're a little more aggressive. How is she supposed to take her zombie boyfriend Brad all the way down to Florida? That just, like you said, that sounds like a really bad idea.
Yeah, it's one of those. It's one of the flaws that Rhonda has. She's not thinking straight, and as you get more into her point of view and in her shoes, you realize that PTSD she's really suffered is legit. The trauma she's been through. Her head is still not right after half a year later, after losing so many loved ones and seeing the world turn into this nightmare planet and the world brought to its knees. It's really affected her. And with that, seeing her fiancé, despite him being undead and one of these Cujos, that pulls on her heartstrings and F's up her mind and emotions even more. The thing with Brad, her zombified fiancé, is that he's not like all the other, Cujos out there. Something in his gray matter, as you learn, there's a spark of recognition. He actually knows who Rhonda is, and he tries to say her name, but it comes out in this, Cujified gurgle type of thing. But it's like Rhonda, like that kind of. And she's like, he knows who I am. He's not attacking me, and that, again, that tugs at her heart and her mind, and confuses the hell out of her, because she's like, he's not just a killing machine. He knows me, and maybe there's hope. And then she makes bad decisions. They say love is blind, right? She just thinks, I'm gonna take him and go, because she can't bring him to the military base, because her Marine Colonel father and all the other soldiers and the people there will freak the F out and kill him. So that's why she steals a Humvee. And again, in her head, she's 21, so she's still really young. and full of hope in life. And she just thinks, if I get to Florida, it's always warm there. It's not cold, and things will work out. And it's just, kind of naive error. And again, the trauma and all that stuff mixes together and really complicates her thinking. And as she goes on and you learn, she just complicates her life and jeopardizes everything trying to do this. And that's really, again, that's where the heart of the story is, and the zombies and the horror and all that stuff, that's all like a backdrop to the story. The real heart of the story is Rhonda and her point of view that you experience. And I think a lot of people can relate to, because she's completely human. She's a regular gal off the street. She was a hairdresser who loved, shopping with her friends. She liked going to Starbucks, and she was happy to be engaged and, marry her high school sweetheart. And then everything completely changed, So it's, some people say, there's a definite splinter of romance in here. It's a dark romance. It's a heartbreaking story, and it's also a horror novel all the way. It's all that stuff woven together, and I had a lot of fun writing it, man. And so far it's been really embraced positively, and between reviews and accolades and everything in the last week and a half, I mean, I'm on cloud nine. But even more than that makes me happy is, fans of Broken Hope have bought the book and have been sending messages or posts and just saying how much they love it. And then just people that are even not into metal, your regular, book readers and horror fans and all that stuff, they're embracing it. So it's been a really good release, and I'm just delighted people read it and really enjoyed the adventure, enjoyed the ride, So here's hoping it stays that way forever for anyone who reads it.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, your name's already out there, not only from like Broken Hope, but Barnes and Noble top 10 paperback best-selling author. That's a huge compliment to you. That's a huge milestone. I feel like that really goes a long way when people see your name now. And this book, October 3rd. I mean, it's a perfect time to release it too. The month of Halloween, of horror and all that good stuff. That was intended, correct?
Oh, yeah. Yep, correct.
Now, without spoiling...
What's funny... Oh, go ahead.
No, continue. I'm curious now.
Oh, I was just saying, the release date being in October was definitely a bonus, because it seems I've been, like, my publicists who hooked you and me up together, they're freaking awesome. And they have taken advantage of the fact that it's Halloween coming up. October's the spooky month. This is when my horror novel drops. So a lot of press targets and people are really interested, because they're tying in my horror novel into the spirit of Halloween horrors, which is great. So I'm a horror geek, and I really am immersed in horror culture. So to get any recognition by like some of the big horror magazines that I love, using my book as a platform, that just delights the heck out of me. And I love Halloween, and tying it in with all this, just for me, just makes all the sense in the world, And just a little trivia fact: the actual book plays out in the month of October.
Oh,
so
that's even better.
So like even the scenery and everything. You're in what, Montclair, New Jersey? Is that correct?
Yeah.
Or New York? So Jersey, New York, whatever, the East Coast in October is just like it is here in the Midwest and North Carolina. You got bare corn stalks. You got leaves falling down on the ground that are crunching on your feet. You got that October sunset and all that mood, that October mood. That's definitely woven into Rabid Heart, so you get that feel. So it's, I don't know, I just think it's kind of a cool coincidence, definitely not on purpose, but a coincidence that the book came out in October. We got the Halloween spirit, the creepy month, and the book takes place during October. It all kind of like, if there's ever an October title to come out, it was Rabid Heart.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, what's better than reading the book and then like feeling the season while you're describing it? You know, it's much more
Yeah,
relatable.
right.
So without spoiling anything, any spoilers, I'm just kind of curious. Are you planning on making this a series, or is this just like a standalone book, or you haven't decided yet?
Well, that's a great question. I have never done a series before, so right now this is pretty much planned to be a standalone. So, give you an idea of like where my head's at. I like reading standalone books. There's not too many series that I've read in my life, you know. There's a few that I enjoyed, or like trilogies that I like, you know, that type of thing.
Yeah.
So this book right now is a standalone. You never know. Maybe there would be a trilogy at the most. You know, I've entertained that thought where it's not the same character, Rhonda Driscoll. It's like another person in a different part of the world. At the same time, this necro-rabies pandemic is going everywhere, who is experiencing their own, you know, horror survival story. So that's one thought. But right now, Chris, I'm really looking to just keep it as a standalone. My first book, The Armageddon Corps, that's total standalone, Rabid Heart. And as I'm talking to you now, I have 2 new novels completed.
Wow.
That I'm revising and editing, and I plan to see at least one of them come out next year. And my whole goal is to now consistently release books. There's been, I don't know, 5 or 6 years or more since the Armageddon Corps came out. Now, in between the Armageddon Corps and Rabid Heart, I have published a whole bunch of short stories in published anthologies, and you know, I've written some other like nonfiction stuff that I've published about writing horror and that kind of thing. So I've definitely, I guess, stayed visible with, you know, writing horror, but behind the scenes, I've been working on novels that just haven't come out yet, and Rabid Heart, thankfully, was the next one up and ready to go. But the point of telling you all that is I don't want to wait years between books. I want to just keep putting them out. So that's the game plan. And those ones coming out, to your point, those are all standalone as well.
Okay, because just hearing the story about her going all the way from to Florida, I feel like there's a lot of, a lot can happen, especially in that whole scenario. So to me, it would make sense, or I would not be surprised if you made that into like another book, or a trilogy or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, there's that whole journey she takes. Believe you me, my friend, when you read it, a lot of crap goes down. You wait. Dude, there's so much stuff happens to her, man. Oh, my God, that she experiences going to Florida. But now that now that you mention it, you got my gears turning, because, like, some of the people or things she meets along the way in Rabid Heart that you read about, they could have, like, there could be prequels and backstories to some of those figures that pop up. So you might have given me a new idea there, bro.
Oh, dude, you're welcome. I'm glad. I always love, like, I don't know if it's called a spin-off, but, like, when they have, like, they branch off an original idea. Like I know Star Wars does that like crazy, so that's like another example. But I love when like you said, like you can use that as a prequel or another little story side bit. I love those kind of things, especially when you're into a book, you want more of it, and that gives you a little chance to dive more into it.
Yeah, right.
So I'm just
Yeah.
kind of curious, how long did it take you to, like write this? Like, how long does it take usually for you to release a book? Because you said you're ready to just finish up another two novels. How long does it take you usually?
Well, as I've become a better writer and really gotten a handle on the craft and been able to also write full time. That's what I do. I'm able to write full time. The first draft of my recent novels have come out like in 3 months. So like say as long as I'm going full steam on a book and really just trying to say I try to do 1,500 or 2,000 words a day or more or something. I can get say 100,000 word first draft done in 3 months, and that's been the case in the last 2 or 3 books. In the beginning, like the Armageddon Chord, or even before the Armageddon Chord, I had novels I wrote before that, and I call those my starter novels. And I always explain that my starter novels are kind of like a band's first demo tape, which means I remember my band's first demo tape, believe me. And it was like I thought our demo was the, best thing since sliced bread. Everyone would love it. I learned quickly that no, your demo, you still got a lot to learn. You have to become a better musician and a better band, but it's a good try. That's how my first novels were. They were super huge, like enormous first drafts, several hundred pages. And I thought, well, that's it. I'm done. I just wrote this whole book. I didn't reread it or revise it or edit it or anything. I was so naive, and I quickly learned, like, no one wants to read it. You're trying to shop it around for a book deal and stuff. And that was a big learning curve and whatnot. But when I was writing the first 1 or 2 quote unquote starter novels, it seemed like it took forever. I think those took me like a year, like to get a first draft done, and but I never gave up. And when I had the idea for the Armageddon Chord, that first draft, I think, if I remember right, may have, been taken maybe 6 months for the first draft. And then you go on to something else to have, you put your first draft to the side, you work on a new novel. So that first draft can kind of cool off. So when you do a new project and finish that first draft, you go back to your other book that's waiting for you. And then when you read it, it's all fresh and new to you. And I've learned that's kind of how I operate. Write one book, put it to the side, work on another book. When that draft's done, go back to the other one and rediscover it. And that helps. So anyway, with all that writing and switching to first drafts, hopping around and working on one book, made me a better writer. And also, I just started writing faster. And again, writing full time and really being focused helps. So again, I'm clocking in at about 3 months to churn out the first draft of a novel. And then after that, if you collectively take all the revisions and editing, as long as I'm focused, there's probably, another few months in there, editing, revising, polishing, as I'm working on other stuff in between. So far that's been the process, so, but I love all the work too. I always tell people, like, editing and revising, like, to people who don't do it probably sounds super tedious and boring and stuff, and I love it. I love all that work. I love all the research too that I do to get facts straight about stuff I don't know about. And I think that's why they call it a passion. I have a passion for the craft of writing fiction. I really do. It's like being a guitar player for me is my other passion, and I never get sick of playing guitar and experimenting with, different tones, and even just, getting intimately involved with how my guitar is put together, what it's made of. I'm a guitar geek and I'm a book geek. I'm all that stuff. So I'll always be like that.
So it kind of sounds like it takes almost as much time as to like write an album, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
Man, that's
Exactly.
crazy.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
That's a good way to put it. Like that's a lot of work, especially because you do that, and you have Broken Hope, and you write novels, and that's crazy, man. Like at least like you said, it's like a passion, so it's not really like a tedious job.
Exactly. And you should always do what you love, without expecting a big payday, or like to be, rich and famous. You go into writing to really tell a story and get that story out of my head, and it's an exercise and it's a joy for me. Just like if someone likes to paint or do sculpture or is into fly fishing or golfing or making birdhouses, you do that stuff because you love it. If you go into it trying to sell it and think, I need a big payday, I need this as a career, that's the wrong way to go about it. Stephen King says in On Writing, A Memoir of the Craft, he said that, yeah, sure, I've made a pretty good buck being a horror novelist, but you know what? If I had never had that super huge book deal from Carey that set him on his trajectory to be the biggest horror novelist in the world, he said, I would still work a day job, but I would still write horror fiction because I freaking love writing fiction, and that's great, man. And that's, again, I think that's the mentality everyone should have.
For anyone tuning in right now, you're listening to 90.3 WMSC Upper Montclair. This is your host, Chris, and I am here with Jeremy Wagner, guitarist and author of Broken Hope. We kind of spoke about Broken Hope a little bit about before. I'm just kind of curious what the latest update with them is. You guys released Mutilated and Assimilated, I think, back in 2017. You currently working on any new material?
Right now, we wrapped up all our shows this year that we're going to do. So we did a string of dates in February, and then this last year we've done a number of tours, actually, and some festivals and whatnot. In August of this year, 2018, we did a whole month of touring over in Europe, and that whole month was a tour to celebrate Broken Hope's 30th anniversary. And that anniversary is really about me starting the band with our two band members, Joe Fychek and Ryan Stanek. The three of us formed the band in high school and in 1988. And Joe and Ryan, they're not with us anymore. Unfortunately, they've passed on, and I'm like the sole remaining original, founding father of Broken Hope. And so 30-year anniversary, looking back, like, wow, I actually formed that band when I was 17, 18. And you do the math. I'm closing in on 50 now. A couple more years. And you know what? I'm like, it'd be really cool. We got these offers to play festivals in Europe. Why don't we tie in dates in between the fests, do a real summer tour, and at the same time celebrate 30 years of Broken Hope. And that's exactly what we did, and I came home and, had a good run. And right now with, I knew when I come home I was going to focus definitely on writing. So right now, Broken Hope has nothing on the table. We have no, new songs written, no plans. We're not doing any shows. Another factor in that, aside from my focus on writing and prioritizing the release of Rabid Heart and these other books that'll come out next year. The other guys in the band, they all have obligations actually with other bands. So no matter what, they're all on tour and doing other stuff. So like Damien, our singer, has the band Gorgasm, and as soon as we got home from Broken Hope tour, he left a week later to tour Europe again with Gorgasm, and they're doing festivals and stuff now this year and next year. And our drummer Mike Michek, he's in a band, I don't know if you heard of this band, called the Atlas Moth. They have a new album out.
Yeah, definitely did.
On press. Yeah, so that Atlas Moth drummer is Broken Hope's drummer, Mike. And so they're on tour with Paradise Lost right now. And he's been touring also nonstop on other tours since we got back from Europe with Broken Hope. Diego, our bass player, he is now filling in on bass for Cattle Decapitation. And he's done a number of tours also since we've been back. I mean, he's gone to Japan. He's doing North American tour with Cattle Decap and Suffocation right now, and they have more tours booked. And then our other guitar player, Matt, he teaches guitar for a living full time, and he's also a jazz guitarist in a band. He has like 2 other projects, and he's just constantly busy. So I mention all that because that's all contributed to Broken Hope being put, over to the side on hold until, the 5 of us can regroup at some point and give it our attention and whatnot. I would like to see possibly another Broken Hope album written and released for sure. As far as touring, I've been telling people I don't really want to tour much anymore. There's really no way to go on tour and make ends meet. So if you just imagine taking a month off of your day job or out of college and not, doing anything, leaving for a month and then coming back with like nothing in your pocket, that would be pretty hard to recover from. And with the last tours we've done, I've barely, been able to make ends meet. And part of it is business, and I think maybe, we need to strategize a little bit better, sort of what I say, pick and choose your battles better. So like doing a festival makes sense. You're in and out, on a weekend, you get paid well, and your expenses are paid. That makes a lot of sense, and maybe being direct support, like Broken Hope direct support to a super huge band on a tour, that might make sense. You know what I mean? But at this point of the game, like jumping in a van, trying to headline a bunch of club dates, for 4 to 6 weeks, that just doesn't make sense. You got to do it make sense. So we'll revisit what we're going to do, appearance-wise, once we have a new album and all that stuff. But we don't know when that will be, so we'll see what happens in 2019. So until then, I'll probably write riffs at home, record them. I'll write lyrics as I always do and try to have some content to bring to the table when we regroup. And then, of course, above and beyond that, it's, Jeremy Wagner, the horror author, full-time.
Yeah, and writing all those books probably gives you some good ideas for, like, the song lyrics, right?
Oh, my God, yeah. I've got so many ideas at all times for lyrics and for stories, short stories, novels, you name it. Funny you bring that up because I haven't told anyone this, but there's a song off of our second album, The Bowels of Repugnance, that came out on Metal Blade Records back in 1993. And the first song on that album is called The Dead Half. And I actually wrote a story, Chris, called The Dead Half based on those lyrics. And I just sold that story to a publisher called Hellbound Books. and they're putting that story in some kind of horror anthology that they have, and I think that'll come out next year. So I only mention it because it's relevant to actual Broken Hope lyrics, making, crossing the bridge over to actually being a legit horror short story. So that's kind of cool. That's the first time for me. Yeah.
That's very cool, man. Congrats. That's
awesome. Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, it's awesome to see like your work, translate through multiple outlets, Like that's awesome. Congrats, man.
Yeah, thank you. And I've always been a writer before I was ever a musician. I've been writing fiction and scary stories, no crap, since I was age 5. And when I was in high school trying to form a band, I was still writing short stories and working on fiction. And I used to write really dark poetry, and the name Broken Hope actually came from a really dark poem that I wrote in high school. And then when I was forming this death metal band that we all know is Broken Hope now, we had a list of names, Joe, Ryan, and I, that we were trying to choose for a death metal band. So I put the name Broken Hope in there because that it always stuck out with me from that poem I wrote in high school. And what's cool is Joe and Ryan thought that was a really awesome name. It wasn't a typical death metal name, but when you heard the name Broken Hope and you heard our music, it all became even heavier, So there's another angle with my writing that's played a role in, I guess making the band something it is,
Yeah, no, definitely. Broken Hope is very. Always thought that was one of the good band names. Me and my band friends talk about good and bad band names. So
yeah,
we thought Broken Hope was pretty cool. I mean, I love Machine Head, but I always thought Machine Head was kind of like a band name, but it fits. After a while you get used to it. So it's just like those little topics we have about stuff.
Yeah, the metal talk.
yeah, exactly. So I love you, Machine Head. Don't get offended if you hear this.
It's funny. I saw Phil from Machine Head at Metallica on Tuesday.
Oh, really? That's awesome.
Yeah, because Phil Demo's a great friend of mine, and that Metallica show is in Milwaukee, and Machine Head were playing Madison, Wisconsin the next night, and the two cities aren't far apart. So the day of the show, Phil's like, "Hey, you going to Metallica in Milwaukee?" I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "Dude, I'll see you there. I got a day off before we play Madison. I'm going to the show." So sure enough, he was there. So we hung out. The Machine Head guys were there. For some reason, some of the Foo Fighter dudes were hanging backstage. Some of the Stone Sour guys and all that stuff. So there are all these faces like you didn't expect to see, but really cool to see Phil there, man. He's a great guy.
That sounds like a great time party right there. And shout out to Phil. Like I was actually really bummed when I found out they all left Machine Head. Like I heard Rob is the only one now left in Machine Head. I really hope Phil finds something, because he's such a talented guitarist. He's so good at what he does. I can't wait to see what he does next. His next project.
Yeah, I can tell you this. He's definitely he's not stopping, man. And the man is passionate about writing music, playing music, and he's such a phenomenal freaking guitar player. And if you look at Phil's pedigree, his track history, I mean, the band Violence, that was such a great effing band, dude. And he was a big part of Violence. And then, of course, Machine Head history. That's a hell of a legacy. I mean, it's just amazing. So Phil, aside from being my friend, and I'm trying to be unbiased, I mean, the dude is just a sick guitar player, and he's a genuinely awesome person. And I personally, look forward to seeing what he does next for sure.
I know you have a lot going on with your novels and, Broken Hope and all that, but do you think you would ever do something with him, maybe like a song or an EP or something like that?
Yeah, I got this fantasy, Chris, of actually doing an album with a bunch of different musicians, it wouldn't be a Broken Hope album. And I'd love to have Phil Demo on a project, and various singers and stuff. I guess it would be like, one of these super project type of things, like, Dave Grohl did that metal one, Probot or whatever.
Yeah.
And there's been a number of projects like that. If I did it, I would want it to have its own identity. So I'd like to have like a bunch of musicians, but on all the songs, not like, King Diamond and, Kirk Hammett on a song like in my Fantasyland mind, and then switch it to like, Rob Halford and someone else, some other musicians on another song. I'd like to have it consistent with a bunch of musicians I really admire. But just to have the collaboration and make some sick music with some sick musicians really is where my head's at. I just have to flesh it out if I really do it and see how it happens. But by all means, I'd love to definitely jam with them,
Yeah, like a super group almost.
Exactly.
There you go.
Like a super group. Yeah.
Well,
right.
Well, if you ever plan on doing it, I'm definitely there to support you, man. That sounds killer. I love those kind of projects.
Dude, that would be great.
Yeah, dude. So, actually, during my interviews, I ask 3 random silly questions. You ready for that?
Yep, I'm ready, man. Hit me.
All right, here we go. Now, because it's the month of October, Halloween's coming up. You love horror and all that. What would you say is your favorite Halloween-themed event or what do you call that? House of Horror and stuff like that. Like, what was your favorite?
Oh man, that's easy. So I told you I live in the northern suburbs of Chicago. So up north here where I live is a town called Gurnee, 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 Illinois, which, by the way, is this town I went to high school with, the town I formed Broken Hope in, and it was Broken Hope's home base for, a good decade, right? So that said, the other cool thing about Gurnee is there's a Six Flags Great America there that's been there since the 70s. And every year, consistently, they have this Fright Fest where the entire amusement park, and I think they do it at all kinds of Six Flags. They do this stuff like at Universal Studios in Orlando and turn the whole park into a haunted Halloween themed park. So Fright Fest at Great America, that's what they do. The whole place is done up, Halloween decorations, creepy stuff. They've got people walking around the entire park with chainsaws and masks and monsters, and it's so cool to see the vibe and everything, man. It's so fun. And I'd say, to answer your first question, definitely me going to Fright Fest and Six Flags Great America is my favorite thing to do.
Oh, dude, definitely. That kind of reminds me. I went to Six Flags here in Jackson, and we got to see most of that. Unfortunately, we had to leave kind of quickly for Fright Fest, but it was a lot of fun. The chainsaw thing, a lot of people getting scared. It's always fun.
Oh yeah, yeah. That's fun watching people get scared out of their minds.
Question number 2. This one's a little dark, but it's fun. Would you rather know when or how you'll die?
Ooh, that's actually a very good question. And you know what, man, it's so hard to answer. I want to know both, but if I really had to choose, I'd want to know when. I would want to know when, more importantly than how, even though how is also important to me. And I'm very macabre with these thoughts. But I'd want to know when, Chris. I want to know, if I knew when in advance, it would definitely change my life and what I do until that date came. I'm sure I would do a lot of things differently.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with that because personally, I would want to know when as well. Because if you know how, you could be paranoid. Let's say, like they say, you die from a heart attack. You don't know when you're gonna get that heart attack. You know, you're gonna just
Yeah,
be
dude,
paranoid the whole time.
exactly.
Like every time you see something, like
Right.
your heart, like you're getting nervous or something, you're like, oh my god, it's now. You know, you get too paranoid. At least when, let's say they say 2070 or whatever. I mean, that's a long time away, but I'm just saying, like, 2050 or something like that. At least you could plan a little bit. You're like, oh, I have time. I could do some little more edgy things or something. It's a lot
Right.
more ease on your body and your mind.
Yeah. Yep. Exactly.
Question number 3 for you. What was the best prank that you've witnessed or been a part of?
Let's see. Best prank. Um, Pardon my pause. I'm searching my memory banks.
It's all good. I mean, you've been
I've
around.
I've pulled I've pulled a lot of pranks. Um, and I've seen my fair share of pranks. Um, you said it's a prank I could have witnessed, right?
Like in person, not
Could,
on not online. A lot of people
not
watch stuff
online.
online.
Okay,
No.
it would be in person. Okay, so um, yeah, the only thing I could think of is okay, where my house is, I've got a pond out back, and there are these. It was winter time, and there are these two neighbor girls that were walking on the edge of the pond, and one of the girls, I don't know if this counts as a prank, but she threw something of her friends on the ice. And the other kid that went out there to get it fell right through the freaking ice,
Wow.
and I laugh, not mean spiritedly. It was only a few feet of water, but that girl, when she fell through, she went like almost up to her waist. She was so freaked out and so upset, and her friend was like laughing her ass off. And my wife and I ran out there and brought him in because it's like winter time. This kid doesn't realize what hypothermia is, and so we had to call her parents and get her changed and stuff. But one would we was, why would you do that to your friend? She was like, oh, I was just trying to be funny and play a trick on her. So see, kids, don't play pranks, man. Someone could be trapped under ice.
Metallica reference.
There's your metal pun.
Solid, dude. Solid. All right, so that was the random silly question segment. Had fun with that. Thank you for participating in that. And
Yeah, my pleasure.
yeah, so you had your book come out October 3rd, Rabid Heart. Everyone check it out. Is there anything else that you would like to add? Anything you want to any upcoming plans, like Halloween plans? What are you doing for Halloween?
For Halloween this year, I think I'm going to a party. Every 2 years, my wife and I have thrown like the most epic Halloween parties you've ever seen. Like the last one we did, we had like 300 people. It was like fully catered and had a DJ, and it was, costumes are required, and it was just off the hook awesome. So we're not doing it this year. So we're gonna go. I think we're going out somewhere to celebrate Halloween. And we haven't had a party in a couple of years because last Halloween, Broken Hope was down in Bogota, South America, Colombia, doing a festival there, and my wife decided to kind of take the Wagner Halloween party on the road. So she went to New Orleans while I was out of town and had invited a bunch of friends down there, and they did like some crazy vampire party ball thing. It was really amazing. I was really ticked off that I missed out on it because it was pretty epic. But anyway, back to this year, we're gonna go somewhere. I think we're real casual, like friend's place or whatnot, So looking forward to that. And then other than that, Chris, just wanted to ask your listeners, check out Rabid Heart. You can find it anywhere. Any bookstore can order it for you if they don't have it in stock. Amazon, of course, and it's available in digital, paperback, hardcover, and in the next week or two, it'll be available in audiobook. And also, just wanted to say thank you, Chris, and WMSC for having me on tonight. I really appreciate it, and I wish you and all the listeners a happy, rabies-free Halloween.
Oh, dude, thank you. The pleasure's all mine. It's been a blast talking about your Rabid Heart, putting that out there again. A lot of fun and Broken Hope, dude. It was a great night. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much, my friend. Take care.
You too, man. Have a great night.